So, you look tired though.
Yeah, I'm still tired.
Common theme. It seems like every time we're tired, we're busy.
Yeah, just
We don't really whine that much. Well, maybe we do. Sorry, everybody.
do we whine or do we make observations that other people can relate to?
Maybe. So, at the time of this recording, which will probably be a little ways after
Hmm.
the big event, do you know what I'm going to say?
No, I'm on the edge of my seat.
Lando. Tell me your thoughts about Lando winning.
Oh, Mr. Norris. I mean, congrats. He wouldn't have been my first choice, but I love the fact that he took number one away from Max and he's changing his number next year already. Already announced it the next day.
What number?
So the world champion gets to pick their number for the next year. They can change it. And Max, as soon as he won, went to number one, and he's held it the past 4 or 5 years. And Lando immediately the day after said, "I'm taking number one." So Max has to go back to his old number.
What's Max's old number?
I don't know.
It's so funny because you didn't like Max, and then all of a sudden you liked him and was hoping he'd win.
He's grown up well because I didn't want Lando to win. If Lewis can't win, I don't want Lando to do it. But it was good. He deserved it. He did fine. It would have been nice to see Oscar win it
I would
instead.
have loved to have had Oscar win.
Yeah. But if it can't be Lewis, it doesn't matter.
Did Lewis ever take one?
Take one what?
The number one.
No. He's always kept 44.
I was going to say, that's pretty egotistical, don't you think?
But that's kind of how Max was back in the day. That's why I didn't like him. But he's grown on me the past 2 years. He's really not softened, but he's got a better perspective on things. So, yeah, it was. I know Maya's probably more heartbroken than I am.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Beans, man. Well, that's the big thing. I don't know anything else going on.
No.
Kids, our daughter.
Kids, yo. Is that it?
Oh, well, just one got her Invisalign off, so she's very happy about that. Oh, we did something that I tell parents never to do.
Yeah.
And it's actually worked out really well. I'm still telling parents not to do this.
Yeah. Do as we say, not as we do. That's this episode. Yep.
But
we do everything perfect. You can't follow us.
But it's got to be good reasons. Okay, so I think we were talking about this before, but it's just changing our daughter's classroom.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with friends, though.
No.
So that's really important. We got to think of why. But she legitimately was not learning in one of the classrooms. She had brought it up, had asked for help, said, I am having trouble learning this way. Can you help me learn this way? Or let's try different things. No, there's only one way to teach, one way to learn. So there's a little bit of that happening.
Mm-hmm.
Full on bullying. And I know we've talked about bullying before, and I don't use that word lightly because I think we overuse it. But when there is targeted, I mean, she's grade 9.
Mm-hmm.
It's been the same kids since grade 2
Mm-hmm.
who do this. So it's targeted over time, malicious intent, purposeful to hurt her physically and calling names, but they have physically hurt her. It just,
we had enough.
We had enough. And so this was kind of the last thing. So it was either
the last thing before I went down there, sort of punted kids across the football field.
Or we were looking at changing schools. And normally I won't do that. But literally one day in, and she is a different kid already. Like, did you get many texts today?
I haven't got a text both days.
No. So this is day 2 of the switch. She didn't come home crying yesterday. She actually was in a good mood.
I don't know if she's come home yet today.
She has not come home yet today. Oh, she's going to the mall. I don't know how she got there. I thought she was going to come home and then ask for a ride.
But no. So we've lost a child. That's the next chapter in this episode.
With non-school friends. So I don't know how she's got there. So she would have gone to the mall, maybe by herself or met up. Who knows?
A child is free range.
Parents of the year.
Child may be living in a different country soon. Who knows?
Anyway, but yeah, like, and normally she's texting Andy several times throughout the day. Even last week, she started texting me, which never happens because I usually have no idea where my phone is. But it was just how much she hates school and she just never,
Yeah, she quit school about 4 times last week.
But yeah, anyway.
But yeah, been a big week.
It's been a big week. And our eldest yesterday did something she said she would never do. She took herself to the dentist all by herself.
Yeah.
She said she would never do that, and she did.
Yeah, she was a little sore by the end of the day, but took it like a champ. and actually got her prescription for her glasses.
Wow. She
Right.
took her little sister to the doctor this morning because we were both in
This is
meetings.
fantastic. It's working out great for us.
I don't, I think the doctor, I did phone in because there was some decisions that need to be made with medications and stuff. So I did call into the doctor's office to be part of that. But she's just like, wow, like I love the family dynamic where like you're all working together to make things work.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if the dynamic was as positive for Maya. I think she did it begrudgingly because she accidentally got up early.
She did get up early, didn't go to the gym, but I gave her a $25 gift card for Timmy's.
She did that.
It was a gift to me, so I
I'm
re-gifted it.
gonna laugh if it expired. She's gonna be
There's
pissed just
a chance.
use it.
It's a good chance because I got it at least a year or two ago.
Yeah.
But to be fair, she said yes before I said I would give it to her.
Then why'd you say you give it to her? Once you
Well,
get the yes, you stop talking. That's a classic sales
you
move.
don't use it
That
tips.
is the number one rule of sales.
No,
Once you get the answer you want, you stop talking.
but I wanted to reinforce the good behavior.
Bribe.
No, bribe would have been before. If you're like, if you do it, I'll do this. No, I was intermittently she was not expecting it. It was a nice bonus surprise. And so now, so that has a bigger reward. Does. Don't nod at me.
You talked your way into a worse deal.
I don't go to Tim Hortons, so I wouldn't have used it anyway. It's been literally sitting in my thing.
For years, and it's expired. 100%.
Probably,
100%.
probably.
So your
Really,
good
really
gesture is
good
going to anger her at the end.
maybe. I have a very needy dog right now who just wants pets.
What's on tap for today's episode?
Well, we have a special guest.
We do.
We do. Mark Perloe. Perloe?
Perloe, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I should have figured that out before. Mark worked as a doctor specializing in IVF for 32 years. Now retired, his favorite thing to do is spend time with his two grandsons. He also enjoys spending time with his therapy dog, Andrew. The two of them travel all over to put smiles on people's faces. Do you travel around and put smile on people's faces?
Not according to the kid. According to the kid, I've got resting a-hole face, so I don't bring a lot of joy when I leave the house, apparently.
That's a very good name for a therapy dog.
It is a good name. Andrew's a solid name.
He's thrilled to be writing his first children's book, and we will be talking a little bit about that today in Milo's Superpower, but we'll be talking about quite a few things, actually. Yeah, the changes in parenting and expectations of grandparenting, and there's lots to talk about. So, hope you enjoy. Well, Mark, welcome to the show today.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here and share Milo's Superpower and the story that the experience we had in bringing this book to kids, parents, teachers, and the like.
Well, we're excited to having you on the show. Why don't we start off with having you say a few things about yourself, and we'll jump in.
Well, I started out as a infertility physician and was in practice running an IVF clinic for about 34 years. And with the pandemic and all this white hair, I was advised that now was the right time to retire. So we picked up our life, transferred from Atlanta to Los Angeles, and got to know our grandkids. And that was the most exciting part. And then recreating our own life as grandparents, seeing the challenge that parents face today and trying to figure out how we were going to fit in was important. So that's where we are. In addition to being a grandfather and a writer of children's book, I do pet therapy and I advise guys with prostate cancer. And we have formed a litter pickup crew in our community. So a lot of people are scared of retirement. I was scared of facing that. And now I can't imagine I ever found time to hold a job.
Right. Yeah. Well, staying busy, I think, I don't know if we'll actually ever fully retire. And it sounds like you are still keeping busy. I think that's really important that we do that. So there's so many things, like just in your bio, we could go talk about 5 different topics, but why don't we start with this, the differences that you've seen in your own from when you were parents to now fitting in as grandparents. Why don't we start there? I think that's really interesting.
Well, I think that we now have a lot more conditions and diagnoses that get attached to kids. So whenever a child doesn't necessarily behave the way an adult expects them, they're seeking to make a diagnosis and explain it. And it's usually something that the child wears. This is what I've seen, rather than parents necessarily looking at themselves. And somehow putting a label on it makes it easier to deal with and live with. My generation, we didn't have to deal with that. And unfortunately, a lot of kids suffered if they were kids that didn't fulfill their expectations of teachers and parents. There wasn't a lot of room. Now there's also the issue of gun violence that the kids have to be afraid of, screen time, whether it's cell phones or iPads. And I mean, it's a challenge that we have faced because we have iPads and we have relatives around. And my co-author and I wrote this book. She's in Connecticut and I'm here in California. And we used the iPad and we shared the process with the two grandkids. So like yesterday, they spent 3 hours on the iPad relating to my cousin, playing games, scavenger hunts, and making her part of the family that you wouldn't normally expect. So it's a challenge in how screens fit in and how to use them wisely.
Hmm. As a grandparent, do you have rules? Like, would you do like to do something as a grandparent that maybe your children would prefer you don't do? I don't know if there's any rules and expectations around that.
So we have been advised that we are the grandparents and that despite the fact that both our children survived, it's best that we carry on with the rules and guidelines that they've established at home. And we don't want to challenge that. It's often that we just don't understand how their parents, what expectations they would have, either about behavior or about redirecting behavior when that's necessary.
Can I ask, are you comfortable sharing some of those things?
Well,
And if not, that's okay too.
the older child is he's struggling at times. He's extremely brilliant, masters computer programs, robots, Legos. He comes to our house and we have automated home and he'll get in there and figure out how to do things and reprogram the TV or the heat and air in the house. So at 8 years old, I'm amazed at his skills. And his skills do very well unless we challenge. Once he's challenged, if it's not according to his expectations, it can become very difficult. Screaming, yelling, hitting, and the like. And that's caused problems in school and at home and with us. We would like him to relate more to us, and he would like to relate more to a cell phone or an iPad. So dealing with how to compete with the electronic screens is is an issue. And sometimes that falls on the younger child who feels invisible. And that's kind of what led to writing the book. The younger child is a comedian. He entertains all the time. He came over to the house before book was written, brought his Roomba vacuum, set it on the floor next to our Roomba vacuum, turned them both on, and pulled me back into the room and explained and shouted, "Grandpa, Grandpa, look at them, they're dancing." And he's that kind of, he always has something silly and he is always bringing about laughter. So I told him when he was feeling down and out that he had a superpower, and that was the ability to make people smile and laugh. And I told him that that was important and it was a skill that he should nurture and try not to lose because it's something that it helps him at 4 years old and it's going to help him at 24 years old if he can maintain that. So he just took that to heart, told everybody he had a superpower. And we were at the park shortly thereafter. And he comes running back, Grandpa, that child doesn't have a superpower. And we explained to him that Superman kept his superpower a secret and went around as Clark Kent. So maybe this boy hadn't yet decided whether he was comfortable sharing his superpower, or maybe he hadn't discovered it and you could help him discover it. So he ran off and said, I'm going to help him find his superpower. So that's the kind of thing that has been a challenge, and how that challenge worked out well by enlisting him in this superpower world.
And I agree that it definitely is a superpower because that's your superpower. And it's helped him be successful in all parts of his life. Like he's just funny and you make people laugh all of the time and you're very engaging.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good that you recognize the difference too, right? And treating them both as the unique individuals they are, I think goes a long way because the one thing I'm sure you probably saw it in your own kids and seeing your grandkids is that comparison, right? That the younger looks at the older and always feels like they're potentially not as good or as good at certain things. So I think that's an interesting way to approach it in terms of, highlighting what they do well and then helping them develop that in multiple aspects of their life and how they build relationships. And then, likely do the same with the older, right? Make sure that they're aware that what they do is pretty special as well. And not a lot of people have the same gift as well.
Well, and they probably have different perspectives. The younger one probably is forgotten because the older one gets so much attention with behaviors, but then the older one probably thinks the younger one is loved and funny and makes everyone right because so they probably have those different perspectives. But I was just asking because I know we've had, butting heads with grandparents in terms of rules and expectations and things like that. So that's kind of why I asked the question.
Well, and it's interesting too, right? Because you do want to forge. It's good that you guys talked about it and had those clear lines, but it's almost interesting as the parent talking to your parents of, yes, you want to do it your own way, but also you have to trust that the way you raised me is good enough to make the right decisions in this world, right? Like it's almost an interesting kind of parallel, or not parallel, but conflict of perception maybe when you get older.
I think it's more that being a parent today is more complicated and there are more demands than when we were doing parenting. And as such, it's tough. I mean, finding time. My daughter is a acupuncturist and has a very busy practice. Her husband is an entertainer and the work comes and goes and schedules just pop up. So this morning we were figuring out carpool for today and the rest of the week because he has a out of town trip. But one of the things that came up when we were writing this was how we depicted the older child. That my daughter's first read was that we were saying the older child wasn't good, wasn't right, and didn't recognize his special abilities. And we did some editing to come around to that. But Milo was obviously one child. But it's interesting you talk about recognizing the difference. A similar story we had. I'm very much into pet therapy now, and I do 3 or 4 days a week. We go visit a school for autistic kids because I wanted to learn more and expose that I'm still troubled. Is this a situation on the spectrum? Is it screen time? Is it just the fact that parents have incredibly hectic lives. So kids' lives are going to be hectic as well. But I had an older dog, and that dog passed after 16 years, and we have a new dog. And there was this expectation that, oh, dog, this is the way dogs behave. And not at all. They are so different as well. And it helped me see that I have to give these kids their own space and figure out how to relate to them where they are and be the grandparent that each one wants to see. And I hope we're doing what will be important for them later on.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing we talk about with our parents all the time too, is around, at the end of the relationship, it's important that they can look back on their time with their grandparents and reflect on everything they've learned from them, right? Like a big thing, and one of the challenges we had early was gifts, lots and lots of just knickknacks and small things, and we understood why, right? They wanted to come with something for the baby or for the little girls, and that's great. But after a while, the conversation had to shift to, at the end of the day, they're not going to equate that stuffed doll to you. But if you teach them the skills that you have, they'll carry that with them for the rest of their life, right? And that's to us was the more important piece. And we see that now. Like our daughters both do things that both sets of grandparents do, and they enjoy it. And I don't even know if they really realize why they do it sometimes. It's just what they were learned and were exposed to. And that to me is a pretty important component of that relationship. And frankly, to your earlier point, it's the advantage of being a grandparent. The parents are the operations people. They are in the, they're in the midst of the day to day. And as the grandparents, you have that ability to take a step back and be a bit more reflective and a bit more present, which is equally as important when the parents are as busy as they are.
So I think the issue of gifts, luckily, that hasn't been as much of a factor. Their father is really good at bribing them to get things done. So we look at bringing experiences and trying to involve them. So involving them both in creating the book. We've done a few local bookstore events, and the 8-year-old enjoys reading the book to other children there and telling the story. And then we went to the younger one's nursery school and read the book there. And he kind of led the discussion with the other kids about superpowers and talking about his vacuum and whatever else. But they saw this as something that we were all doing together. And I think that was along the lines of what you were saying, that
Yeah.
you want to build these memories.
Yeah, because that's what they'll remember, right? And how do you want to be remembered? And it's through those moments, not stuff that they bought. And I think that's just empowering too. And I know actually, just to shift a little bit to the book, just in looking through it, it sounds like this can help kids with building resilience and regulating emotions. So I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about that, how this can help promote some of those skills for kids.
Sure. So I think the main thing here is that the character Milo in the book, in moments of conflict, turns to humor and turns to smile, to use his smile. And rather than when Oliver is in the playground and falls off the slide into a puddle of mud, Milo turns it into a game. And I think that's an important lesson. You were talking about what the kids learned from us in reading the book. It takes about 5 minutes if you just sit down with the kids and read it. On the other hand, if I'm with them or with a class and I'm reading the book to them, it can be 45 minutes because they each have something to share. So I think one of the things that I was enlightened by this whole process was that I was going to learn as much as the kids were going to learn. And I didn't necessarily want to push this as a tool just to take my values and push them into the child, but to build a conduit for parents and kids to discuss some issues about how to handle conflict and what tools they could call upon. On our website, we have discussion questions that it's good for parents to read through before, so that instead of just, I'm reading a book and you fall asleep, it's really a time to connect and ask questions and you to educate yourself to what their world is. It's hard. We don't, particularly for a grandparent, to understand the world that they are living in. It's changed a lot since we were kids and since we were parents. And I think that tool helps. We also have classroom activities for teachers on the website that might be helpful as well.
Oh, that's great. I often talk about when we're learning skills in therapy to look at books and shows and things like that to kind of relate to get kids thinking and then bring it back to their own experiences. So I love that. Awesome.
Yeah, it was very cool. So just with the kids, you said you had them involved. At what point did you bring them into the idea, or was it just, did you kind of iterate with them through storytelling, or maybe walk us through that, how you brought them into the book development a little bit more?
Okay. So the first thing was obviously the event and
Right.
experience where the younger one, Rocky, was dealing with his feeling invisible. And I thought this ought to be a book. There's something in here to share that other people might gain help from, or at least have that discussion. I was really pleased with how he brought that, the whole idea of having a superpower, what it meant to him, and him sharing that with me. So those discussions happened. But my cousin is a second grade teacher in Connecticut. And I figured, what better way to test this story? So when it was just text, she read it to her class. She read it to Rocky. She read it to Hugo, the older boy, and got feedback from them. And we used that to mold the book. And then she went to her class and had them all draw pictures from the story before we had illustrations. These are not the kids' work. Obviously, we're not going to steal that, but we got those pictures and we chose an art teacher at the same school as the illustrator and gave her the pictures. And then we also showed them to Rocky and Hugo along the way as we were working on the project and got feedback from them.
That's cool.
That's great. That's a really good way to do it.
Yeah. Cool. There's so much to think about. And I have so many other questions just about therapy dog and IVF, but maybe another day. Lots to think about anyways here. Anything left unsaid that you think is really important for listeners for this episode to hear?
Well, I think they'll enjoy it. We have all great reviews on the book. No, don't become a book author, children's book author, if you want to earn your living doing this. Lucky and blessed that I have other resources. So for me, this has been a project of how to connect with the grandkids. And I think this can help other people build the relationships and strengthen bonds and instill some great values in their kids. So I hope people will check it out on Amazon or our website, which is milosuperpower.com. We're also Milo's Superpower on any of the social medias.
Amazing. And I'll make sure I put all of that in the show notes. And I do love that you have kindness in there because I think we definitely need more of that. So yeah, definitely instills some great values. So
Awesome.
well, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for inviting me. It was a great discussion.
Yeah, it was great chatting with you. Thank you.